back to the Marketer of the Day podcast. We are here with AJ Rivera from ajrivera.com. AJ is the founder of Blink Media Company. They are a consulting firm that provides businesses with executive level guidance and leadership for their marketing teams. And AJ knows all about the marketing world, growing businesses, the digital ecosystem, so much more. So AJ, Angel, glad to meet you.
Robert, thank you for having me on. I deeply appreciate it, and I hope I can bring some value to your audience.
I hope for that too, right? We're both working for that common goal. So we're looking to bring the value to the audience, but I'm also here to help you shine a light on those things that you think need more attention, those problems that we're not focusing enough on, or those actions we're not taking enough of. So what is on your mind? What is your passion? What is the urgency of the last 6 to 9 months?
For sure. So yeah, like you said, I build marketing systems. We call it a digital ecosystem for companies, anything from small businesses to large, like $200 million companies. And I found a lot of the practices are kind of the same because our human brains are the same, right? And so making sure you're leading with demand generation, that has been super important. And like dark social, right? The stuff that's harder to track has become more and more important in the past few years because our customers are a little bit more skeptical. So I've loved focusing a lot of our energy into things like partnerships and social and content creation, as well as using them to support like paid media efforts. So yeah, that gets me excited. I love building little ecosystems and communities. And yeah, that's sort of a high level of what I do every day.
And so when you mention that, like, I'm not sure if we're on the right track, but what comes to mind is it used to be, you're making me think, 10 to 15 years ago, if there was something I was going to buy, I go and like look at the website and that would be good enough for me. But nowadays I'm thinking like, okay, do they have an app? Can I pay with PayPal? That way I don't have to turn my my credit card over directly to them. I look and see if they have like a social presence. If they do, I see, are they posting? And if they do, I see, do they have lots of comments? I'm like looking for maybe all of these established things and this like consistent activity that's hard for someone to fake. So I'm like, okay, I want to make sure like they're not a fly-by-night operation. They've got so much going on that there's no way there's some like they have some shaky foundation. So is that kind of on the right track of what you're talking about, like having all of this like dark social setup?
Yeah, 100%. You're 100% on the right track. It's sort of like, I mean, we all do it, right? You see an ad for something, even if it's on television or social media, one of the first things we'll do is Google it, right? Check out the reviews, check out, hey, what's their social presence look like? Do third parties that I respect like what they're doing? And so the example that often happens is like, let's say a junior level employee will see an ad for something. They'll mention it in passing. Somebody else will throw it in Slack. And then before you know it, the CEO is like, hey, what's this thing? We should go to the website and book a demo. And that's hard to track, right? But it's directly because of the dark social, the things like podcasts and content creation and really your brand recognition, right? Like that's such an vague, like fluffy thing sometimes, but really having an established opinion and something to say in the marketplace, we found is helping with all types of industries, even like weird, boring B2B style businesses. So yeah.
So do you have a fun like example or story about that? Because that sounds really cool about if you have some business that maybe needs to wake up the marketplace in a way or needs this awareness. And it's like, well, we're just some, manufacturing company or something, and we need something cool to say. I imagine that's where you might come in and have some strategy like that.
Sure. Yeah. So one of my clients is a staffing firm. They're a B2B staffing firm. They do like 200 million a year. They have existed for 40 years, and they kind of came from the old world of business, very networking. Networking is still important. It's just done differently, right? It's done on podcasts. It's done via email. It's done via DMs. And they had built that up, but they had nothing done on like the digital side and nothing on the inbound side. Everything was outbound, knocking on doors, showing up at businesses unannounced. Here's a gift basket. Like it's almost a meme, but that's how it's been for so long. And so implementing just a few things like regular content creation, right? With a small team, this team here is like 6 people, and small lead generation campaigns, as well as gathering things like video testimonials from happy customers, of which they have hundreds, and putting that all on purpose together in sort of an ecosystem has started to create this local brand recognition, as well as the inbound leads where we're seeing organic traffic go up. We're seeing calls, more calls on the calendar for all of our sales reps and business development reps. And we're seeing a happier customer experience too. We're already seeing customer lifetime value go up because they've already been convinced this is the right choice before they even booked that, demo or sales call or whatever you want to call it.
So it seems like, at least in this within this story, there's so many of these businesses that are only using like one little piece of what they could be doing, right? Like in that case, they're just doing the outbound, not doing enough of the inbound. And it seems like I imagine that what holds a lot of businesses back from doing this maybe is that they don't even know that they should be doing this, right? That's where you come in. And even if they do know they should be doing it, they probably don't have a plan, which means that they might try it for a few weeks and then stop. And even if they did have a plan, they wouldn't have something afterwards to then measure it and then see an increase and then refine it and be encouraged to repeat the process. So I imagine that that's where you come in, where you eat and sleep this all the time, and you've done this hundreds of times. So that way it's second nature to you, and there's not like the slow learning curve, and you just know what needs to be done.
Correct. And thank you. That's very kind. But yes, that is really the case. Oftentimes with marketing, and especially business owners, CEOs who maybe are not marketing savvy, they kind of try let's try one tactic at a time, throw it on the wall, see if it works. And marketers, they do this on purpose sometimes, right? I mean, you and I know they'll say, this is the one thing you need and it'll fix everything. When really every business is a unique situation, right? Every business needs a customized approach depending on their industry, their product, their reputation, everything. And so knowing what tools to use for the specific job is important, and it's nuanced, and you need to take a customized approach, especially, I mean, small businesses, but big orgs too really need a customized approach. I think trying to just get one ad up or get one content or one blog or one SEO is not, it's a good way to set yourself up to be frustrated, right? Because you keep trying new things and you're just like, oh, marketing doesn't work. It's all about ops, or it's all about sales, or it's all about, whatever else, leadership, morale, and all those things are important. But having a strategy and a holistic approach, we found really will generate better long-term results and sets the expectations appropriately.
Yeah, and that way you're not just dabbling, or that way you're not feeling dumb because you're trying this one technique and it's not even the right thing that you should be focused on right now. And you mentioned this whole concept of getting frustrated sometimes. And I imagine that with all the activity that you and your company have, you've had these obstacles, these roadblocks. So do you have any interesting stories like that where you kind of hit a wall, you struggled, you had to overcome some kind of obstacle?
Yeah, so a common obstacle we'll get with is we have, let's say, for instance, one of my biggest client, right? The B2B staffing company. They have entry-level marketing people, and there's like no training, and there's not really a put together strategy. They just kind of have people plugging holes in the boat, right? And so oftentimes when there's like broken processes like this, you have to fix those processes before you can even begin to implement a strategy. And it's not as sexy or fun to talk about, but it's really the case, right? If your boat's already out in the ocean, it's got a bunch of holes in it. You should probably patch those holes and then think about going faster, as opposed to just kind of, keep hiring more people to cover up the spots. So the situation here was a lot of people who didn't have sort of that base level knowledge of inbound marketing strategy and tactics. So we had to take like a good month to just train them appropriately, because if not, then we have a bunch of untrained people, to stick with this medium metaphor, running the ship, right? And as opposed to taking a little bit of time and saying, look, we're going to train you guys on how to use these tools, CRM tools, at media buying. We're going to get you consulting and training and certified and qualified so that when you're out there, you feel confident because you're doing this for the first time.
And you hear about that a lot, about how if the system or the process is broken, or there's just like a lot of things in the business that are disorganized or not working, and the temptation is to just kind of bury that under the rug and then, just do 10 times as much of what you do. And it seems like a recipe for 10 times as much disaster, and to to get to the frustration level 10 times quicker.
Yes. That's 100% correct. Is oftentimes people will just hire more people to help plug these holes instead of patching them, right? And that's common, but it becomes a bigger challenge the larger and bigger your company gets. So if the sooner you can address it is going to make your life a lot easier. Business owner is going to be happier, and you're probably going to end up making more money.
Well, that all sounds great, and I imagine that it's easier said than done, but it's maybe a painful lesson for someone to hear. And even if someone is listening to the podcast and this is really hitting home emotionally, well, maybe there's a reason for that, right? Maybe there's a few things in your business that you need to go in there and re-examine. And so we've talked about some fun stuff so far, right? Right, Angel? We've talked about how we need to have a strategy and not just be plugging holes in the boat, how it's important to have this customized approach and be doing more than one thing, but also doing the right things and also measuring them. And you're in this business of solving problems for your clients. And it has me wondering, well, what problems are you working on right now for your company, right? You're all about company growth, but then I'm sure that you're growing your own company as well.
Correct. So yeah, our consulting firm, Blink Media, does exactly that. We solve those strategic problems and help run the marketing ops for orgs, everything from small businesses, mom and pop, to these large $200 million companies. We have a small team here who helps support us with that. And we like to kind of put things in three different brackets when it comes to creating demand and growing that ecosystem for ourselves. And we do lead generation, which is the classic get their email, name, and phone number that most marketers are very familiar with. We like to do partnerships, things like podcasts and talking to the magnificent Robert Plank, creating content at the same time, but also hopefully delivering value and reciprocating. And then the third thing we do is actually taking pillar content, so things like these podcasts or other pillar content, which may be like YouTube videos, and slicing them up so that you can use them in your remarketing strategy as you drive leads using things like Facebook and Google. Those are the main ones right now. TikTok, you can use a little bit as well. But those are the ones we drive for lead generation. And then on the back end, we have all these other systems to build trust, because never, like, this is the most skeptical I've ever seen an audience. And I think you've probably seen the same thing as a marketer, is that people are like, look, what are you trying to sell me? What's this strategy session? Like, is it actually a strategy session? Or are you going to ask me the same 4 questions everybody else does, right? And so they, like, consumers are just not putting up with it anymore. They are demanding value. And so leading with that much value and then offering value on things like demos or, blueprint calls, strategy calls, where they have something tangible that they can leave with, is, I think, going to be the future. We're already sort of headed that way, as I'm sure you've noticed, but it's going to become more and more important for companies. And if you can get ahead of it, you don't have to play catch up.
And probably like 1 out of every 5 of these interviews I do, I keep thinking back to this really old, I mean, it's old now, but there was a saying from like 15, 20 years ago called moving the free line, where it's like everyone has this line where over here is the free stuff and over here is the paid stuff. And if you can be that company that kind of you're the one that moves it a little bit, and in a way you kind of maybe put this or that company out of business, or like, theoretically, it would make them kind of panicking because you're giving away the thing that others are paying for. I mean, that's kind of like, Google's strategy, or people are like, Facebook strategy, right? It's just like, if everyone's charging for these strategy calls or charging for, this free book or whatever it is, if you're the one that makes that free, and then the thing that they paid for is even more impressive, right? If you're giving away the course, but then the done for you is the thing that's paid for, like, there's all kinds, you can have, it's a simple idea, but your brain can go into all kinds of fun, crazy places like that. And it leads to everything you're talking about there of, being a good company and an ethical person and serving others and standing out in the marketplace and kind of innovating and all those fun things that go along with it.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it kind of goes with like the feedback you would see on like ads. Like, I always think of Facebook ads as the common example of like, if this was so good, why why are you charging for it, right? Why don't you let me see it for free? Why is it in a black box? Why can't I see what it is? Even with your service, right? Like your service with the Done For You podcast is awesome, right? Because it's a very tangible thing. You have a podcast, we can see the service you provide, but then we can also, like, we know we're getting support. It's done with / done for you support systems. It's not ethereal. It's not this idea. It's nothing I could Google for free. It's something tangible that's supportive that you believe in because you're doing it. And so if we can do that more, and you have, let's say, your customer lifetime value dialed in, you can afford to do things for free for your customers because you know you're going to convert a certain amount of them and you're going to keep them. You're not going to have a bunch of refund requests or chargebacks or things like that. So I think we're heading to a more product focused world with it when it comes to all types of marketing companies and service-based businesses. But it's awesome to see it happening in practice and that the companies that give the most are being rewarded.
And I imagine that for someone like you, it's a lot of fun to geek out about the numbers, even if they're maybe like the hypothetical numbers where like you're guessing about maybe, are they paying this for their ads? Are they paying this much to acquire a customer? Are they making this much from the lifetime value? You can have a lot of fun being, and to get to that point where your competitors are almost like dumbfounded on like, how are they even making money? And for some reason, I'm thinking back to, I think it was like back remember in school when they would have you like sell magazines and candy bars and things like that. And they said like, if you sold this number of subscriptions, you'd get this prize. Like you get like this pizza party for your class, or you'd get like this, this box of pencils or something. And like the prizes were set up in such a way where like, you were like, how are they even making money with that? And I mean, who knows if it was a loss leader or they had their numbers just right, but it's kind of fun to think in those ways of like, can I give away the farm, so to speak? So now what's your excuse, right? If you're that skeptical customer and you're seeing, okay, do they have enough YouTube subscribers to satisfy me? Do they have enough Facebook followers to satisfy me? Well, now what's your excuse? Like, can I remove anything else in your list of objections to say, can I finally give this a shot? And so this is all really fun to think about. And these are all things that you and I both know is not thought of enough. It's so easy to get caught in the day-to-day. We're always so busy, split focus, running out of time. So what is your secret for the time management and the energy management? Because even something like this, like us getting our schedules figured out to be on a podcast and just finding the time to show up and be present, I mean, it seems like tougher than ever. So how do you manage your time such that you get all the things done that need to get done, but you also manage the people doing other work for you, and you also have the headspace to think of a bigger picture? How do you do it all?
Yes, excellent question. I often wonder that myself, but I would say the tools I have now that seem to support me both have to do with lifestyle and, of course, like productivity process. So I'll do the productivity because that's more tangible. But when it comes to that, I found mapping, like straight mapping your outcomes and breaking them down to as small as humanly possible. I know it sounds very basic, but not enough people do it. They have an ever-growing to-do list of things to do, and they're just like trying to do everything every day, right? And they're like, which one's going to make me money, or which one's going to make customers happy? And they just do that one. And to help me and to help my teams, what we generally will do is we'll map out, okay, what's the next outcome for the next 90 days? Like, what needs to happen for the business to improve? And we'll reverse into those KPIs and then break them down to literally daily tactics and daily activities. And so we'll give anywhere, depending on who it is, 3 to 5 little things they can do every day to just keep kicking the can, right? To just get 1% better every day. That's going to hit that goal by the end. And it also builds the habit, which is super important. But yeah, and as part of that with creatives, you need to schedule in time for creative work, whether it's writing, we have graphic designers here, we need them to edit and play and draw, whether it's a copywriter, I'm like, just write an ad for whatever you want, right? Write a blog post on whatever you want, maybe we'll post it. Just giving them that opportunity to kind of get into a little bit of a flow is supportive for both their mental health, but also for actually hitting the business outcomes. So those would be the productivity stuff. Outside of that, lifestyle wise, sleeping, eating, drinking water, going for a walk, Like those sound like such basic, silly things, but often I feel like workhorses like us sometimes just like grind and ignore our personal health. And I've noticed that when my personal health takes a dip, my professional health starts to take a dip as well. So making sure I prioritize those things has been super important for me over the past decade.
And I like all that a lot. And I feel like I need to go back and listen to that segment, because there's like 12 little bullet points that are so helpful. And I think that the things that I got from that answer just now is, number one, that scope creep is a real thing in your daily life. And if you don't make the time for some of the kind of more free tasks, like, write some of these ads, write some of these copy, do the slightly less important things, then they'll never get done. And then also, it's so simple, but it's so easy to forget, that reverse engineering concept, that time only flows for us mere mortals forwards. But if you only think forwards, then you'll just kind of get dragged along with the current, and you won't really get anywhere, and you won't really hit your goals or know your goals. But then if you can think more in terms of like a supernatural being that can think in time backwards, then you say, okay, in 90 days, here's where I want to be. And you said things like outcomes and diagramming and drawing, so which is kind of, for me, wakes up my brain more, right? You're not just saying make a list or write out some things. You're saying,
Right.
do some doodling, draw some boxes and some arrows, and figure out these KPIs, figure out these numbers. So that way, in 90 days, what you want to do, and then you kind of reverse and backtrack, and that way you break it down into manageable milestones. Because I don't know about you, Angel, but when I had kind of like a month-long I keep thinking about back in school. I don't know, maybe you're just bringing back these bad memories, but back in like 7th or 8th grade, when we had like these month-long projects, I made the mistake of only thinking forwards. And then I would kind of, the first few days, be so excited and dabble a little bit here and there, and then procrastinate for like 3 weeks. And then the final 2 days be in complete panic mode and try to slap something together. And it would just be a complete disaster. It would be stressful for no reason. The end quality would not be very good. And it all could have been avoided by doing some of these simple but not often implemented things you're mentioning here, of looking forward to 90 days, figuring out based on that goal, what are the numbers, and then backtracking to those daily tasks. That way you kind of pace yourself. And that way, if you do have a down day, if you do need that time to go and drink the water, take the nap, sleep in an hour later, take the walk, do whatever self-care you need to keep yourself energized and consistent, then you can do that. And if you're on the right track, or if it needs adjusting. I mean, it sounds simple, and it can be simple as long as we apply those habits and actually listen to advice from people like you, because it's easy to just ignore that, or just to let the chaos of every day creep in, and who wants that? So anyway, there's so much that we talked about today. And I think the big thing I'm getting is we need to be organized, think about our numbers, think about lead gen, have a strategy. And if some company out there is listening to this podcast interview and they say, okay, so much of what Angel said made sense, I want to know more about him and his company and how they can help me, where do they go? What do they do? And what's the offer?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, I appreciate you even offering that. If you own a small to mid-sized business and you're looking for some marketing strategy, you can go to ajrivera.com/ we'll do MOD, marketer of the day. Or you can go to blinkmediaco.com if you'd like to hire our firm, and but either way, our offer will map out your next 90 days for free. We usually charge for that because that's a lot of work for us, but we'll map out the 90 days of your marketing for free so that you can have it with you physically. You can go implement it. You can focus on the things that matter, the outcomes that are going to drive business results, and forget about the things that are going to waste your energy and time and just drain your energy. So yeah, that's our offer. If that sounds like something you're into, ajrivera.com/MOD or blinkmediaco.com.
I love it. And that's a very generous offer. And, make me think about, if you think about where you were at 10, 12, 15 years ago, and in hindsight, 92% of everything that happened you day to day didn't even matter. But at the time, you weren't able to separate what was important, what wasn't important. And so I think that's why knowing these outcomes and having this 90-day plan can be so helpful. So that way you can just differentiate that and be laser focused on just those things that grow your business, just those things that get you where you want it to go. And so ajrivera.com/MOD and blinkmediaco.com is the place to go right now. So that way people can get to where they need to go. And, maybe you're out there in podcast land and you're curious about what one of these 90-day plans looks like. Well, why not take advantage of this offer and get Angel and his team to map this out for you? That way you can see for yourself what is possible, because if you keep having the same thinking, the same actions, you get the same results. So it is time to break the cycle and to get to bigger and better things. ajrivera.com/MOD, blinkmediaco.com. Any final parting words of advice here, AJ? Anything you think we left out or anything you want to just put in here at the last minute?
Yeah, I will actually. First of all, thank you for that endorsement. That's wonderful. And I would say, oftentimes as business owners, there's a million things you're going to do, a million things you have to do, a never-ending to-do list, and there's no done in business. So the important thing for you as a business owner is to focus on the things that are going to drive, in most cases, like revenue and business outcomes. Don't get distracted with the next shiny squirrel or the next thing that you see that's supposed to solve everything. Stay focused on your 1 to 3 outcomes, hammer down, and you'll see a lot of things change in your business and probably your life.